For decades, the greatest mystery of the Sphinx has not been what lies hidden within, but why it was sealed in the first place. When scientists gained access to a secret passage atop the statue's head, anticipation spread worldwide of a chamber filled with long-awaited answers. However, instead of ancient inscriptions, what they found pointed to something far more troubling and far more recent. Wooden planks sealing off tunnels and concrete blocks poured to permanently block passageways. This discovery no longer raises questions about what the ancients were hiding, but rather about what modern humans may be trying to bury. The wooden planks. The journey into the interior of the Great Sphinx begins with an official excavation led by two renowned Egyptian archaeologists, Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner. Drawing upon the recollection of an elderly worker regarding a secret tunnel near the tail of the statue, they moved aside a single boulder revealing a steeply descending passage that plunged straight into the darkness beneath the ancient bedrock. Over 3 continuous weeks, the research team explored the depths of this underground tunnel. The outcome of that entire effort was summarized in a 16-page archaeological report, accompanied by several illustrative images from the exterior. The official conclusion came with absolute finality. They had searched every centimeter and confirmed this was merely an empty tunnel containing absolutely nothing concealed beneath the Great Sphinx. Yet, the physical records at the site told a different story from that 16-page report. And a few daring individuals managed to approach the rear section of the Sphinx statue, while authorities were distracted and succeeded in capturing images never before released. These secretly taken photographs revealed a physical structure completely at odds with the claim of nothing there. A distinct tunnel rose right through the center of the Sphinx statue, heading straight toward the east. Most notably, this passage did not terminate at a natural rock face or a collapsed dead end of earth and stone. It was deliberately blocked by wooden planks sealed tightly from the inside, forming an artificial barrier invisible from outside the monument. The appearance of these wooden planks created a profound perceptual contradiction. Plank wood does not belong to the materials of thousands of years from the ancient Egyptian kingdom. It marks a distinctly modern physical intervention. Data from these clandestine photographs aligned perfectly with ground-penetrating radar scans that had indicated empty chambers deep within the statue, exactly along the path of the boarded tunnel. Bringing construction materials into a confined space to seal a tunnel generates a striking inconsistency. Why would an archaeological authority expend effort using wooden planks to seal an area they had officially declared on paper to be completely empty? This physical intervention forced the investigation to expand dramatically. Was the boarding inside the head of the Sphinx merely an isolated measure, or did it signal a systematic concealment process unfolding across the entire surface of the Giza Plateau? The empty machine. And to determine whether the artificial intervention at the Sphinx was an exception, the center of observation shifted along the raised causeway linking the statue to the second pyramid. Directly beneath this route lies a system known in academic circles as the Osiris shaft. Unlike a narrow tunnel, this represents proof of heavy mechanical capability. This structure was not built by stacking stones. It consists of a network of vertical shafts carved straight through the solid bedrock of the plateau, plunging deep into the earth through 3 distinct levels. Complexity increases with every level of depth, directly challenging the limits of primitive tools. The first level opens into a meticulously crafted rectangular pit, descending nearly 10 meters, serving as a silent, undecorated space. From there, a second vertical shaft drops another 20 meters into a more complex system. Yet, it is the third level where physical reality fully departs from ordinary logic. At an impressive depth of 30 meters below the surface, the system reveals a chamber holding an enormous stone sarcophagus. This monolithic block weighs approximately 40 tons. Surrounding the central shaft sit 6 additional burial chambers carved deep into the rock walls. Surprisingly, every one of these chambers stands empty. The greatest contradiction rests not merely in the missing artifacts, but in the geographic position of the chamber. This third level cuts directly into the natural water table, causing the space containing the 40-ton sarcophagus to lie partially submerged in the eternal groundwater flow of the Nile River. Moving a stone block equal in weight to a commercial airliner across desert terrain already poses an immense challenge. Lowering that 40-ton block down a narrow vertical shaft 30 meters deep without collapsing. The limestone structure requires precision that borders on the extraordinary. Any miscalculation would allow the immense weight to crush the passage forever. That ancient builders embraced such extreme technical risks simply to place giant empty stone boxes in a flooded underground zone makes the tomb assumption seem fragile. Indeed, this structure carries the signature of a colossal mechanical system, rather than a place of spiritual rest. With such a vast and defiant underground complex lying right beneath our feet, the inevitable question emerges. What does the entrance to this intricate system appear like today? And how are the authorities managing it in full view of the public? The concrete wall, the anomalies beneath the ground would have remained a mere archaeological mystery without the series of physical interventions taking place on the surface of the Giza Plateau. Here, skepticism over incomplete reports hardens into clear evidence of a deliberate effort to control geographic space. The pivotal element in this entire system of perception lies at the northern entrance of the Osiris shaft. Archived images from independent explorations in 2011 present a scene entirely different from what exists now. Back then, the northern entrance appeared as a large opening, a naturally weathered pit descending deep into the bedrock. This opening measured about 1.8 meters high, creating an unobstructed pathway straight into the underground tunnel network, with a secondary eroded tunnel right beside it to the left. It carried the authentic look of an ancient entrance, a true gateway to investigating the hidden depths of Giza. Today, the physical state of this site has undergone brutal alteration. Anyone visiting the location in recent years faces a site that violates every principle of World Heritage preservation. That enormous natural opening has been wiped away. The depression beneath it, once obvious in older photographs, now lies completely filled with sand. Worse still, most of the main entrance stands sealed behind an industrial concrete wall. The secondary tunnel on the left met the same fate, filled and covered, leaving no trace. Deploying modern materials like concrete to seal a monument thousands of years old lies far outside standard archaeological practice. Concrete fails to preserve limestone. Instead, it destroys the geological context and seals the interior space forever. Pouring a smooth concrete wall across an ancient entrance constitutes a deliberate move to sever all access by independent researchers and the public alike. To grasp why such an extreme step was taken, one must look at exactly what rests beneath that concrete wall. Physical evidence capable of shattering the accepted historical timeline waits at the northern wall of the Osiris shaft in the form of an enormous gray sarcophagus. What renders this object so threatening to established theories is not its form, but its molecular makeup. Through X-ray diffraction analysis, geologists determined that the material forming this sarcophagus is diorite stone, a magmatic rock composed mainly of feldspar and quartz. The central problem is that no known diorite deposits on the entire African continent could yield a monolithic block heavier than 40 tons. Its presence 30 meters beneath the Giza Plateau implies it was quarried in Europe or the Black Sea region, then carried across thousands of miles of ocean and desert. Beyond this geographically impossible origin, an even deeper challenge arises from precise physical measurements. Using the thermoluminescence method developed by Professor Ioannis Laritsis, a technique that measures electrons trapped in crystal lattices since the stone surface last saw sunlight. Direct tests on this diorite block produced a stunning result. The dating places this sarcophagus back to approximately 3,350 years before the Common Era. This timeline precedes the era of Pharaoh Khufu and the Fourth Dynasty by nearly 1,000 years. Those pharaohs are traditionally viewed as the builders of the Giza complex. The presence of this alien stone block deep in the underground shaft demonstrates that the Osiris system existed long before mainstream Egyptian civilization began raising its pyramids. The concrete wall above does not simply hide an empty tunnel. It functions as a physical security barrier, isolating artifacts that could overturn the history books entirely. When those in power choose to pour concrete over the sole point of access, one cannot help but wonder how vast the true network beneath that wall must actually be. The underground map. The decision to seal the entrance with a solid concrete wall leads to an inescapable logical conclusion. The massive quantity of materials and administrative effort required for this sealing operation would be entirely disproportionate if the Osiris shaft were simply an isolated structure ending in a few flooded chambers. Concealment only becomes necessary when the hidden element is not a dead end, but rather a junction with a central axis leading into a far larger system. To truly understand why the control measures are so intense, our understanding of this area must expand beyond isolated excavation points and view it as part of one enormous underground map. Reports from the 30-meter depth of the Osiris shaft contain a detail often overlooked. At the third level, there exists an area shaped like a horizontal tunnel driven into the limestone bedrock, yet officially labeled as only partially excavated. It is extremely rare for a major archaeological project to halt right before an open passageway. The structure of the Osiris shaft with its vertical shafts shares geometric characteristics with underground infrastructure access points, rather than sealed tombs. Broad geophysical data across Egypt strongly supports this possibility. The existence of vast underground tunnel networks stretching for kilometers is not myth but confirmed geographic reality. At Tuna El Gabel, such subterranean networks extend more than 3 kilometers. Even more astonishing, the system beneath the step pyramid at Saqqara includes up to 5 interlaced tunnel levels. If stretched into a straight line, the entire system would span roughly 56 kilometers in length. At the Giza Plateau, ground-penetrating radar scans have also confirmed the presence of at least 3 deep tunnel levels beneath the major pyramids. What makes this network remarkable is the way these elements do not exist as separate entities. The Osiris shaft sits precisely beneath the raised causeway, connecting the Great Sphinx to the second pyramid. This geometric placement cannot be coincidence. It functions as an underground transit axis, a vertical connector allowing movement between the colossal structures above ground and the honeycomb network beneath the limestone bedrock. The shafts penetrate dozens of meters into solid bedrock, linking the greatest monuments together from below and forming an immense three-dimensional architectural whole, of which the surface of Giza represents only the roof. The greatest behavioral contradiction revealing the true nature of this network lies in the complete absence of writing. Ancient Egyptian kingdom cultures displayed an intense archival obsession. Every space in their tombs, from the narrowest corridors to sarcophagus lids, was densely carved with texts, spells, and passages from the Book of the Dead to guide the pharaoh's soul. Yet, despite the extraordinary labor invested in creating a 3-level tunnel system piercing the Giza Plateau, every wall, every vertical shaft, and every 40-ton diorite sarcophagus in the Osiris shaft remains perfectly smooth and blank without a single hieroglyph anywhere. Leaving thousands of square meters of polished stone surface completely empty in such a monumental project represents a severe violation of standard cultural practices from the Old Kingdom period. The only logic that can explain the total absence of religious inscriptions is this: the entire underground network was never designed as a burial site, and it was not carved by people who used the Egyptian hieroglyphic system. Instead, the smooth design, the multi-level grid structure, and the perfectly vertical shafts reflect the characteristics of a purely functional infrastructure system. The concrete wall on the surface is performing the task of blocking all access to a vast, non-religious, non-inscribed subterranean metropolis stretching for dozens of kilometers beneath the sand. If this is purely an infrastructure system, what physical forces were engineered to move through this enormous water-filled network? The blocked flow. Once the idea of a religious tomb is discarded, the physical reality inside the Osiris shaft must be assessed through the lens of mechanics and applied engineering. The most important detail, once dismissed as an environmental accident, now becomes the central clue. The permanent presence of water. At the lowest level, 30 meters down the tunnel system intersects directly with the natural groundwater table of the Nile River. All attempts to pump the area dry using mechanical equipment since 2012 have failed because the water is not leaking from above, but rising from the vast hydraulic reservoir within the limestone bedrock. Traditional interpretations have viewed this flooding as evidence that the ancient builders miscalculated the depth when constructing a tomb. Yet for a network engineered with such high geometric precision, the fact that the lowest levels cut exactly into the water table is not a design flaw. It is the intended purpose. If this underground network functions as a hydraulic infrastructure system, then water serves as the moving element of the machine. The groundwater table acts as a pressure management system, an underground channel network, or a hydraulic locking mechanism. This liquid navigation hypothesis offers a practical answer that obeys the laws of physics to the most puzzling problem at Giza. How to move 40-ton sarcophagi inside narrow tunnel spaces without requiring thousands of laborers pulling in oxygen-poor conditions. And these massive stone blocks could have been transported and positioned precisely by adjusting the groundwater level inside sealed shafts, using the buoyant power of water to lift and lower extremely heavy loads. Evidence that this underground system was operated with material processing technologies far ahead of its time appears not only in the hydraulic system, but directly on the surface of the artifacts inside. On the southern wall of the second level, an imposing black granite sarcophagus displays a technological layer impossible for the Bronze Age. The surface of this sarcophagus is coated with a thin bituminous membrane for waterproofing. When scientists examined the stone surface beneath the bitumen using spectroscopic equipment, they discovered it had been covered with an extremely complex metallic alloy layer. This metallic coating surrounding the ancient sarcophagus consists primarily of lead, but carries clear traces of zinc, iron, arsenic, and especially titanium. The presence of titanium and multiple other elements in a surface coating blatantly violates every known metallurgical record of the ancient world. Extracting and alloying titanium requires extremely sophisticated high-temperature chemical processes. Applying a multi-element alloy containing titanium to a stone surface before sealing it with bitumen serves no aesthetic or ritual purpose, since the entire metallic layer remains hidden in darkness. This material structure serves one purpose only: to create a functional shield. Whether intended to provide electromagnetic isolation, extreme chemical corrosion resistance, or some unknown physical process. This level of technology proves the sarcophagus is an industrial device, rather than a container for a mummified body. A hydraulic infrastructure network spanning dozens of kilometers, pressure regulated by groundwater, containing exotic diorite stone blocks and titanium alloy-coated stone boxes. This is the true physical nature of the structure beneath Giza. And this is precisely what is being isolated from the outside world by wooden planks and industrial concrete. Confronted with the existence of material technology far beyond what mainstream history permits, the real motives behind the authorities' concealment begin to come into sharp focus. The buried question. Truth is not always uncovered through new inscriptions or forgotten monuments. Sometimes it reveals itself most clearly through the very methods modern organizations use to hide it. This investigation does not rely on mystical legends or speculation about prehistoric civilizations. It is built entirely upon direct observation of physical barriers and chemical data at the site. No additional surprise discoveries are presented at this stage. What remains is simply a stark comparison between official statements and the physical materials that exist in plain sight. Our awareness must now retrace the entire chain of physical events. It begins with the crude but sturdy wooden planks, nailed tightly from the inside, to seal an eastward tunnel located deep within the head of the Great Sphinx. Their presence stands in complete opposition to the 16-page archaeological report that concluded the area was entirely empty and held no research value. Next comes the extreme action on the surface. A modern reinforced concrete wall poured in haste to replace a naturally weathered entrance, sealing shut the only gateway leading down to the northern shaft of the Osiris shaft. At a depth of 30 meters beneath that concrete wall, there are no broken pottery shards or religious talismans. Instead, there rests an enormous mechanical machine flooded with Nile groundwater. This is a tunnel network stretching dozens of kilometers containing not a single hieroglyph. This is a 40-ton diorite block transported from outside the African continent, carrying thermoluminescence data that pushes its date back long before the birth of the pharaohs. This is an improbable titanium alloy coating meticulously applied beneath the bitumen layer of a stone box that holds no human remains. These physical details, electrons trapped in quartz spectral signatures of the lead titanium alloy, the presence of steel nails, wooden planks, and Portland cement, form a body of evidence that cannot be bent by any historical narrative. This colossal contradiction completely shatters the credibility of the mainstream explanation. History cannot be protected by using construction materials to block X-ray diffraction measurements. When an academic institution or government chooses to use physical tools to nail boards, fill sand, and pour concrete over an archaeological site, that is never an act of preservation. It is an act of destroying access. Sure, it is a physical admission that the actual material nature of the monument cannot be reconciled with the theoretical system being taught. The journey from the crown of the Sphinx down into the water-flooded depths of the Giza Plateau has fundamentally altered the nature of the mystery. The central question no longer concerns which ancient engineers possessed the metallurgical and geometric knowledge to build this underground network. That question has receded, giving way to a far more uncomfortable and disturbing reality belonging to our own era. The greatest mystery no longer lies in what time has destroyed, but in what archaeologists and authorities of the 20th and 21st centuries actually witnessed under the beam of their flashlights. The silence of the Sphinx does not conceal answers to the origins of humanity. Instead, it stands as a monument to a deliberate decision. The decision to permanently seal technologies in dissenting histories, burying them not through the erosion of sand, but through the very concrete blocks of organized silence. Our understanding of the past has been broken. Far more alarming, the trust in the transparency of the current pursuit of knowledge can no longer stand on its own.